Hello everyone, we are back and welcome back to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast, as you know, with your hosts George Tsounyas
and Maria Petrakou. Have you missed us? Do you think they missed us?
I don't know, the question is, have you missed recording, Maria?
I haven't missed editing, I'm not going to lie.
Well, we have had quite the summer, haven't we?
We have indeed. We've done lots of islands. It's been quite eventful. Quite a few new experiences, individual stories, shared stories. So we thought that it would be, you know, a good way to start and get back into it with giving you a bit of an overview of what we got up to this summer. We're not going to get into too much detail, but we do want to tell you where we went, why we chose the specific itinerary, and just give you a few highlights from, I guess, our individual and joint ventures.
Yes, and we will also give you a flavour of some of the destinations we will be covering in the coming months. But also, you know, stay tuned, as we were going to give away some of those destinations at the end of the episode. And what more you can expect, because I feel like we've been quite busy since coming back from holidays, planning lots of exciting episodes. So before we dive in, and you know, some of you listening will be new, as we seem to be getting a lot of kind of new people reach out. Isn't that right, Maria?
It is indeed.
Yes. So if you are new, hello and welcome. It's nice to have you. And if you're an avid listener, you know, love you too. So if you're not following us on Instagram and TikTok, then head over now and hit on that follow button, which is at My Greek Island. Or we're also on YouTube on My Greek Island Pod.
Exactly. And to support the show, please like, subscribe, drop a rating, review, share it with friends, family. It definitely helps us reach a wider audience. And obviously, if you want to, support us that bit extra, then we also have Patreon, where you can access the episodes ad-free. You get to access our closed stories on Instagram and a bit of exclusive content.
Yes, so I think without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast, dedicated to take you, the wanderlust, on a journey through Greece.
There are 227 inhabited Greek islands. Which one will you visit next?
My Greek Island, with your hosts George and Maria.
Okay, so what we got up to this summer, how did we decide on our itinerary, which we're going to kind of give you an overview. So first things first, we started with the island of Leros, which we wanted to visit, and we were looking at ways to combine it. Now, the reason why we chose the island of Leros is because Maria and I, being quite the social butterflies, went on holiday. We met these lovely two French ladies, Martine and Marianne. So if you're listening, hi, who have been going to Leros for a number of years, and we met them in Chalki, and they were like, we should all meet up in Leros next year. Like, I think you'll really like it. It's quite rustic. There's lots of things to do, lots of history. So we decided on Leros, and an island that I've been wanting to go to for a very long time is Lipsi. So we decided to combine Leros and Lipsi, and yeah.
Yeah, however, as George tends to do, he booked his ticket to Athens without, consulting with me. And the dates actually didn't work for me because there's a public holiday in the UK. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go somewhere by myself. And effectively looking at where Leros and Lipsi were, I decided that I'm going to visit Patmos. And although I've been to Patmos before, the first time I went, I was sort of in another stage of my life and didn't see much of the island because I was with a group of friends, and we did not do much at all other than one beach, one bar and one restaurant. and we were doing that on repeat. So I thought it was a great opportunity to go back and see Badmos with a bit more, with a different mindset, I guess. And after looking at Badmos and combining those three islands, I saw that Goz was also nearby, which has direct flights to the UK. So it made such a great stepping stone to get to those islands. And then, George, what did you do?
Well, I mean, whilst Maria was in Badmos and having already booked tickets to Athens, I decided, and it's something that I've been meaning to do for many, many years, for family reasons. So I decided to take my aunt to the island of Kalymnos, which is in that area as well. And the reason being is my great-granddad was a sponge diver on the island of Kalymnos. And I actually only found out this year that he left at the age of 13 because he was unwell from diving, moved to France and then moved to Athens, but never returned to the island. And we are the first people from our family to go to the island of Kalymnos, and we were trying to kind of retrace some routes. We didn't get very far, but that's the story for the Kalymnos episode, and to talk about kind of the sponge diving history of Kalymnos. So so what was the final itinerary after we did all of this?
So effectively we landed on me going to Badmos. While I was in Badmos, at some point George would go to Kalymnos with his aunt. We would then meet in Lipsi. From Lipsi we would go to Leros. And then from Leros, we would go back to Goz, where we would fly back to London together. However, initially, we had anticipated putting in a one more cheeky island in it, which was called Arki, which we never ended up staying at, but we did I ended up going twice, and George ended up going once to see. And, we will cover that on the subsequent episodes on the podcast.
We will, and if you haven't guessed it already by the islands, or if you don't know Greece very well, these islands are part of the Dodecanesa, and it's actually our 4th year going to that. So I think we've got a My Greek Island obsession with these islands going on. So maybe we'll branch out to other islands next year. But we kind of found our place in the Dodecanese. Well, I have anyway.
Yeah,
but,
I think
we are planning other places.
They're very different and very unique, and maybe we should do an episode just like talking about the Dodecanese, so people can get a bit of an understanding, because it's definitely, although it does have its crowd, when people think of Greece, they do tend to think of the Cyclades more than other clusters of islands.
They do. Are you planning a trip to Greece and feeling completely overwhelmed by all those options? Well, we've got you covered. Why not book a personalised travel consultation with our very own Greek island guru, Maria, designed to make planning simple, efficient, and completely tailored to you. You can choose from 3 tiers. Whether you just want, to pick her brains, need a high-level plan to build your very own trip, or want a fully customised travel itinerary, there's an option to suit your style and budget. And in true Maria style, she has thought of everything, so you can also add follow-up support by email, or even book a second call if you need help finalising those finer details for your trip to Greece. Now to book, head over to the website www.mygreekis.land/book to see the options and get started with your travel consultation with Maria. That is www.mygreekis.land/book. There are 227 inhabited Greek islands. Which one will you visit next? Okay, so let's get into a quick overview of each of the islands that we visited. So I'm going to start off with Kalymnos, which I said we visited for that sort of family connection type. So Kalymnos is in the southeastern Aegean, so in the Dodecanese. It lies between Kos and Leros, so you can see how it's all been combined. And it's really known for its rich sponge diving history. And more recently, it is quite famous for climbing. So there's lots of activities to do with climbing. Didn't get to do any climbing. I think I'd have to take Maria or someone who is up for doing some climbing. I would say is a less frequented island compared to others. And some of the highlights of the island. So I think first off to say it's exploring a more rustic, and I put basic island, but in a nice sense. It's not as, it doesn't feel as built up and kind of mainstream touristic. It is quite busy, but it's lots of locals live on the island. So, you know, I really kind of like that and didn't quite expect that when I visited. One of the beaches that I'm going to highlight, which was one of my favorite, is Emborioz Beach. It's in the north. It's perfect. I loved it. And also when we went, it was quite windy, so it was sheltered from the winds. Then another highland is the island of Telendos, which you can't miss because it's literally opposite Galimnos, and you can get a little boat. It's around 5 to 10 minutes from Mirties, and you can go over and explore the island of Telendos, which is great. Lots of nice kind of tavernas on the seafront, and the boats go all day up until the evening. Then we've got the main town of Galimnos, which is really nice. Lots of little streets, very local feel. Combined with the main town is the church of Ayo Savas, Saint Savas, which is perched right at the top of the hill. It can't be missed. And then finally, as I said, it's famous for its sponge diving history. The Sponge Museum is a must visit. It's so fascinating, and anyone going to Galimnos will instantly see there's kind of sponges being sold everywhere. So it can't be missed. It's right in the main town near the port, so it's well worth that visit to find out more about sponge diving. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. We're going to do an episode dedicated on Galimnos, so at some point. So now over to Maria, where whilst I was in Galimnos, she was kind of sending pictures and updates on her trip and adventures in Patmos.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone from Greece or Cyprus will have heard of Patmos because it's an island that is very known, and that is because it is very popular with religious tourism, because it is the famous place where the Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation, and it has lots of monasteries, and one of them is actually perched on a hill. So like wherever you are in Patmos, you can actually see it, and it's super impressive. And that is actually also one of the highlights of the island. So it's perched on the hill, and around it is effectively the one of the towns called Chora, which has these beautiful little alleyways. Now, one thing that is super that I personally enjoyed about Patmos is how relaxed the beaches are. It's not too busy, it's not too loud, they're not too loud, not too organized. Some are organized, most are unorganized, and it's just got this very chillaxed vibe. Now, just next to the monastery, there are these beautiful windmills where you can catch the sunset and the sunrise. It's beautiful to watch them from there. Although, unfortunately, while I was there, it was quite windy. And then there's also these mansions in Chora, and I got to visit one of them, which are family owned. And the one that I visited was the 13th generation of the family that was, owning this mansion, and they were maintaining it and opening it to the public so they could actually see it, because it was a very interesting architecturally as well. And what is very interesting is that the mansions, they don't tend to have the same name as they started, because the tradition in Patmos that you would hand it down to the first daughter. So then the mansion would change the name of the daughter, and as historically women would take their husband's name when they would get married, the name of the mansion would change. So that was something that really fascinated me. But at some point, the specific mansion, I think I don't remember on which generation, they just stopped changing the name of the mansion. And then the other highlight of Patmos is that you can take a boat trip to nearby islands, and you can do the same in Lipsi. And that is where we visited the island of Arki that we were planning on staying at, but due to logistic reasons, we didn't in the end.
Yeah. And obviously those following you on Instagram, if it goes on your highlights, will see that you did like your nightcaps in Patmos. I feel like that was one of the highlight as well for yourself.
But I did in Lipsi as well.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't.
And I would have probably in Leros if you followed, but
yeah. So and then we joined forces on the island of Lipsi. So we met in Lipsi to then go on to Leros, and we also had a day trip to Arki. So an overview of Lipsi, which is an island we've wanted to go to for a while. How do I describe it? For me, you can tell I love the island, is pure island magic, crystal clear bays, a really like small local feel to it. But I mean, for me, what I really liked was the ability to get around it on a bike or an e-bike. Although, you know, if that's not your thing, you can hire a scooter. There is the option of a car, and also a great sort of, there's a taxi. There's like 1 or 2 taxis on the island, so you can just call them up and they'll pick you up. It's definitely on my top list of islands. So yes, loved it. So highlights, as I said, e-bikes, 100% amazing. It's just like the freedom. It's so liberating. You can just get around. I think it's 8 kilometers wide, the island. So nothing is too far away. Yes, it's hilly. That's why you need the e-bike. I mean, I don't know with a normal bike how that would be. And you can just literally get everywhere you want. I think another thing that was really great for us was that it was so hassle-free, as all the beaches, apart from one, they're non-organized beaches. And I think the municipality really want to retain that sort of non-organized beaches. However, with that, there's plenty of shade in these beaches. Like most beaches we went to, there was some form of shade. Then
I think that was a general thing on this holiday, though. I don't know about Galimnos, but every island I went to, there was shade.
Yeah, Galimnos was, there was. But we have been in the past in some places where they have not been shade, and it's been like,
No, I know, but I'm talking specifically about these islands.
Yeah,
there was
islands,
shade.
yeah.
I mean, we took the tent and we didn't use it once.
Yeah, oops.
Yeah.
Then
guess whose suitcase it went into, but yeah.
I know. The next one was our accommodation. We stayed in 2, but the first one, we literally stayed, I mean, you can't really be in the middle of nowhere because it's 8 kilometers wide, but we were kind of out, like one of the last houses outside of the main town. It's great for light sleepers because it's not noisy until the morning, where you have the calls of the, the cockerel. So yeah, Maria found it relaxing. It disturbed my sleep, but I mean, it was still very peaceful.
It's meditative. I couldn't believe that you were so disturbed by it.
And also we could like go out in the garden and kind of like pick figs for our breakfast, which I really got into because I wasn't really a fan of figs until then. I hadn't given them the go. And then finally is the boat trip. As Maria said, we visited the island of Arkius, and we also visited Aspronisi, which, we will talk about the boat trip because it was definitely a highlight, and the waters are to die for.
You mean we'll talk about it when we do a dedicated episode?
Yes.
Not now?
Yes.
Okay.
No. The dedicated episode. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to Leros, which is the last island. I'm not sure how. So Leros is a really interesting island because it has a deep World War II history. So there's so much to learn. It also has a bit of a dark history post World War II, which we will discuss more on the dedicated episode. Simultaneously, though, it's an architectural gem. In one of the towns, you can spot. George didn't get to see them because he wanted to. I don't know why he didn't want to come on a walk that day. He wasn't feeling that well as well. He will touch on that later. But there was a lot of neoclassical mansions, and that I've never seen such architecture. Like, it was amazing. And then on the other side of town, which effectively was under Italian occupation, and the town, which is the town of Laki, which was effectively rebuilt when it was under Italian occupation. So you've got a lot of Art Deco buildings. So it's very interesting architecturally. It's very interesting historically. And it's also very, very popular with people that like to sail and sail around the Ganese. Now, some of the highlights are the town, as I mentioned, the town of Laki, which was effectively when it was under Italian occupation, is the one that was rebuilt. And it's very interesting to walk through it, but with a guide, because it's very interesting that if you do it yourself, you will not see you will not notice so many things. And there's a story also on Instagram where I talk about this, so worth having a look.
Yeah. And I mean, isn't it when we drove through, I mean, you're more observant of these things than I am, but I think when we drove through the town, I was like, oh yeah, it's just another sort of like,
But we
harbour
also
town.
walked through it one night, but it was evening and we didn't notice anything.
True.
Other highlights are effectively the castle, and next to the castle there's windmills, which it's beautiful to go up in at sunrise, at sunset. Like, it's just such a nice, has such great views. While we were there, we also got to experience 2 πανηγύρια. One which was next to the War Museum, and the second which was on the harbour of Pandeli. And I said the War Museum, and the War Museum is located in an area where the entire area has underground tunnels, which was built again by the Italians. So there's a lot of interesting things to see there. Now, another highlight for me was the food, although we didn't get to experience one of the restaurants that I had on my list because George got food poisoning.
Yeah, we kind of both did. I got it worse.
Yeah, I was all right after a couple of hours.
Yeah, it was definitely a low light of the holiday, and that's probably one of the reasons I didn't go exploring the part of the town Maria did. But yeah, but I agree with all the highlights, and it all happened at the end of the holiday, so it didn't ruin it.
Well, yeah, I'm just gutted that I didn't get to try that restaurant, but and there was a few other things I wanted to do that we didn't get to do on that day. But otherwise, yeah, it was literally the day before we were leaving. 2 days before we were leaving, so it was kind of didn't disrupt us much, I guess.
Yeah. And then, after Leros, we had our final stop, overnight stop in
I think before
Kos.
we go to Leros, we should
Yes.
mention that, as you said at the beginning of the episode, we chose Leros because we had met 2 French amazing ladies in Halki last year. We actually did meet up with them in
did,
Leros,
yes.
and we went to, we got to see both of them at the one πανηγύρι and the one at the second πανηγύρι.
We did, and we did a lot of dancing.
We did,
There was a lot of
indeed.
dancing going on, which was great. And then after Leros, we had a stopover in Kos, but actually there is not much to say, as we were kind of stopped over, wasn't feeling too well, so kind of ventured out, had a little a bite to eat, and then went back to the room. Although we did have an epic massage on the final day.
We did, and then the next morning I got to experience this very famous cafe that effectively makes 2 things, bougatsa, I think, and dirobitsa, that's it. And the bougatsa was pretty epic.
Yeah, and a last-minute shopping trip before we went to the airport.
Exactly.
So you were impressed with the shops in Kos. That's one thing we did notice, like the boutiques.
I get when we found the last area that I went to, there was a few boutiques with some Greek brands that I like. That I was quite impressed.
So is there anything else before we come to the end?
I think we can wrap it up. What do you think?
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it comes to the end of this episode of what we got up to this summer. And I said we will dive in a bit deeper into the islands we mentioned. But before we go, those of you that know and those of you that don't, you will know now. At the end of each episode, we give you a Greek phrase that we think kind of captures the essence of the episode. So,
what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, so I say it every year, like, this is my favorite island, this is my favorite island. But Nησιά is definitely one of my favorites for now. I mean, there are 227 allegedly inhabited Greek islands, so who knows, it could change. But on the basis that it is one of my favorite Greek islands, we're going to give you the word for one of my favorite islands is. I think we've given you the phrase for my favorite island is, but I think they're going to have more than one favorite. So we're going to give you the phrase for one of my favorite islands is, which is, and I'm going to give Nησιά as the island. So, ένα από τα αγαπημένα μου νησιά είναι η Νησιά, which is, ένα από τα αγαπημένα μου νησιά είναι η Νησιά. One of my favorite islands is Nησιά. And Maria? What was one of your favorite islands?
I'd probably say the same, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I'll say Leros, which was also
Okay.
a highlight for me. Ένα από τα αγαπημένα μου νησιά είναι η Λέros. Ένα από τα αγαπημένα μου νησιά είναι η Λέros. Cool. So, I think that's a wrap. What do you think, George?
I think, yeah.
But did you promise our listeners that you were going to give a flavour of what's coming?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we did say we're going to give you a flavour of what's coming. So, yeah, oops. So, in addition to the islands mentioned in this episode that we will do a deep dive on, we have many new episodes coming, which many of you have been asking for. So, for example, we've got sailing in Greece, we've got Paros, Naxos, and the small Cyclades, and much more. So, stay tuned because, you don't want to miss out what we've got coming up.
Exactly. So, everyone, thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Until then, γεια σας.
Γεια σας.
Right, my Greek Islanders, this comes to the end of another episode of this podcast.
Now you know the drill. If you like this episode, share it to share the love with the My Greek Island community, where everyone is welcome. And
Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and all that jazz, and maybe give us a little rating from wherever you're listening to us from, so you are notified every time a new episode drops. And if you have any suggestions or requests, get in touch.
And for those of you visiting Greece, don't forget to tag at My Greek Island on Instagram for a future feature. Until then, see you later, or as they say in Greek,
Ta leme.